The circular business models, which prioritize reuse, recycling, remanufacturing, leasing, and extended product life cycles, are essential to transitioning to a sustainable economy. However, firms attempting to implement these models often face difficulties obtaining bank financing. This is mainly due to the non-traditional nature of their assets and the uncertain cash flows involved, which do not align well with the risk assessment criteria banks usually use. The aim of the article is to understand how circular frames can successfully gain access to bank finance and what mechanisms can help bridge the gap between innovative, sustainable business models and conventional banking practices. Research, no, two main strategies for accessing bank finance. One, uh, stagnating future cash flows. Firms can increase their chances of obtaining a loan by effectively demonstrating their expected revenues, since circular business models often lack traditional assets for collateral. It becomes crucial to signal their ability to generate reliable cash flows in the future. Key mechanisms, obtaining pre-orders of letter of intent from customers, building a predictable, preventable through subscription or releasing shares, showing a stable income from long-term contracts. These tools help banks estimate repayment potential even in the absence of tangible collateral. Two, building relationships. Relationship building is a crucial trust-based mechanism that reduce the perceived risk for banks. Key practices: maintain open and continuous communication with banking partners, engage in transparent dialogue with all stakeholders, including suppliers and customers. Demonstrate ecosystem resilience by showing integration in a broader, a stable value chain. When banks view entrepreneur as trustworthy and the business ecosystem as solid, they're more likely to offer financial support even under uncertainty. Three, designing collateral compatible assets. Another strategy is to adapt the business model or product design to align better with the bank consider acceptable collateral. Key approach: uh, make circular assets modular, durable, and standardized to enhance their resale value. Ensure that assets have an active secondary market, making it easier for banks to estimate value recovery. To emphasize product as a service models that create a steady revenue while keeping asset ownership. This reduces that bank's risk perception and aligns the circular frames asset more closely with traditional lending requirements. Mm, the mechanisms that link strategies to outcomes. mm, the article highlights several mechanisms through which these strategies improve access to finance. One, for example, risk translation. Entrepreneurs helps banks understand and assess circular risks for reframing them in familiar financial terms. Two, value articulation. Firms must clearly communicate how their business model captures value, not just for the environment, but also in monetary terms. And three, institutional adaptation, because some banks are already adjusting internal practices, like shifting from collateral-based to cash flow-based lending to better support innovate models. Implications for firms and banks. For circular firms, one, invest time in formalized cost contracts and partnerships to back up financial forecasts. Two, develop assets and processes that banks can evaluate and possibly repose or resell. And three, use relationship building as a tool to educate financial institutions of the nature of circular business. And for the banks, one, develop internal capacity and expertise to evaluate CBMS. Consider a hybrid assessment model that go beyond asset-based lending. And three, adjust internal policies to account for the unique features or circular themes. And conclusion, the study concludes that although a structural challenge exists, bank finance as is accessible to circular themes if they proactively address key financial concerns. Success depends on adult effort. Circular frames must adopt financial strategies that align with banking logic, and banks must evolve to recognize and support the unique dynamics of sustainable business models. Rather than calling for entirely new financial instruments, the article emphasized adapting and improving current lending processes to make them more inclusive for circular economy innovators. Thank you.